Scripture reading this morning is from Hebrews chapter 6, verses 10 through 12. For God is not unjust so as to overlook your work and the love that you have shown for his name in serving the saints as you still do. And we desire each one of you to show the same earnestness to have the full assurance of hope until the end, so that you might not be sluggish, but imitators of those who through faith and patience inherit the promises.
Thank you, Clay, for the scripture reading. It's a good verse. Maybe not as popular as some of the verses that we've been looking at this summer that people made into art, people have posted in their homes. But just one that, as I've been studying and praying over it, I just kept thinking about how much this really probably speaks to a lot of people. This verse should be more popular. It should be made more popular. It is... I think it really speaks to a lot of us who feel like our hard work goes unnoticed. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever felt unappreciated? Like all your hard work isn't being seen. Like nobody even knows. Like you're giving and you're working and you're sacrificing. And no one really seems to know or acknowledge it. I think we've all felt that way, maybe at home, maybe at work. And of course, this verse is speaking to people who felt like that at church. But maybe you felt like that at home. Like your family comes home to this just wonderfully clean house that you've worked on all day. And then they just come and sit at the table and enjoy this wonderful meal you've prepared and just have no idea of what work you went through to make all that happen. And they just sit and enjoy the fruits of your labor without any real understanding. Or maybe a dad comes home. I remember my dad probably feeling this way, coming home after a long day of work and just feeling like no one knows what he did. No one knows how he sacrificed. No one knows how he's provided this life for us. And we just get to sit there and enjoy it all. We get to have the good life while he was at work all day. We have no idea what he went through. And how about at the job? Sometimes your boss doesn't know all the things that you put up with that day. They don't know how you went the extra mile. They weren't there to see that. They don't see your sacrifice or how you handled that annoying customer so well. They don't know what you dealt with. Oftentimes, with our bosses or our board of trustees, we don't hear from them unless there's a problem, right? That can be really frustrating. My dad says they're like birds. You don't know they're there until they're pooping on you. That's sometimes how it feels, right? They're not building you up. They're only there when there's a problem. The second you mess up, here they come. And it kind of starts to make you feel like this disposable cog in a machine, right? Like, I'm not getting any thanks. I'm not getting any appreciation. But as soon as there's a problem, here they come. And so maybe some of you felt taken for granted. A majority of people report feeling unappreciated by at least one important close person in their lives. So this is something we all feel at some time. And it's a pretty unpleasant feeling to feel unseen, unheard, people just not understanding what you are doing. And so maybe you're in here thinking, I'm serving, I'm working, I'm giving. And people just don't seem to care or appreciate it. As they're enjoying the exploits of your work and your labor, and people just don't get what all happened for them to be able to receive that. And that can be frustrating. And so this verse is one we picked out. This has been posted in our church office for years. Pretty sure one of our former secretaries put it up there. And it's blessed all of us for quite some time. And a little nod to our secretaries. They do a lot of great work. I would even call it ministry. They serve our church in a lot of ways, and sometimes that does go unnoticed. Or then they come to church and they just want to worship, but they're treated like an employee, and that's no fun. But the secretaries, they know who to check on. They keep things organized. They help me and Clay and Emily remember things and know what we should be doing. They help us with pastoral care. They participate in pastoral care, especially with like funerals and stuff. So I think this has been an important reminder to a lot of our secretaries that, hey, what you are doing really does matter. And this verse, it's speaking to Christians who feel that way, kind of wonder about their love and sacrifice to the church. Let's kind of start asking, I don't feel appreciated. Does this matter? I don't feel seen. I don't feel like what I'm doing for the church is going noticed. And so people might be thinking, I do all these nice things. And I don't think they think in terms of payoff. But does it matter? Does the way I'm loving and serving the church matter? Is it making a difference? Is it worth it? Why am I doing this? Hebrews was written to Jewish Christians. Maybe overarchingly to all of them, but now we're kind of starting to think that, hey, this guy who wrote Hebrews, he may have been a minister, a pastor of a congregation in maybe somewhere in Rome, and this was a letter to his predominantly Jewish congregation. That would make sense. And really, one of the goals of Hebrews seems to kind of be telling these Jewish Christians, hey, don't give up on the faith. Don't give up on following Jesus. Don't resort back to just traditional Judaism. Don't kick Jesus out of it. And because some of these guys, some of these Jewish Christians are likely facing persecution from multiple angles. Persecution from Nero, who's out to get Christians. And then maybe they feel pressure from Rome, but then they also feel pressure maybe from Jewish friends and family that are like, hey, why'd you start following this Jesus guy? Hey, why are you breaking from your Jewish roots? So they may have family mad at them. And so they might start thinking like, hey, did I really make the right decision to start following this Jesus guy? Did I really make the right decision to become like a follower of the way? It might be easier to just go back to my Jewish roots. And so the author of Hebrews say, no, don't do that. And so that's why if you read through Hebrews, you'll see him address all kinds of issues associated with this, pointing to the superiority of Christ, telling them to not stop meeting together, as some have started doing. Some have quit coming around. Telling them if you reject Christ, it's really hard to come back. So here, he's still speaking to that same group of people. And he's saying, for those of you wondering if all your service and love to the church matters, if you wonder the way you check on those who haven't been around, the way you take meals to the sick and take care of them, the way you step up and lead and do the things that nobody else wants to do. For us, that might be like setting up chairs or taking out trash or staying late at church to lock up. The way you bring people from the margins of the community in, the way you make people feel a part, the way you care for the elderly. That stuff really does matter. You are seen by God. God sees what you are doing, and it matters. And he won't forget it. He won't forget. God is making mental notes. He is proud. God appreciates what you are doing. And he doesn't quote, the author of Hebrews doesn't quote Jesus here, but he could have. He could have said, Cody Bob actually made an allusion to this passage too. He could have said, hey, what you've done for the least of these, you do for me. Which that's also another thing that's a really good reminder of, hey, what you do matters. But it does matter, and what you're doing makes the church better. Even when not everyone sees it, the Lord sees it. Even when there's people that maybe there's a part of you who really wish people knew that this was happening. I really wish people appreciated what I was doing. Well, God appreciates it. And just work to please him. Work to please him. Seek his approval, not man's. And when you serve the church that way, you are getting God's approval. And it's much easier, I think. It's much easier to get God's approval than it is an entire group of people. So those of you doing the behind-the-scenes stuff at church, the thankless jobs. I sometimes think of them as foot washing jobs. The jobs that are not super glamorous, but somebody's got to do it. And if you don't do it, things are going to go real bad. Thank you. Thank you for stepping up and doing that. I think of things like washing the dish rags in the kitchen, doing the streaming, doing the behind the scenes stuff, doing building maintenance. One that I do actually think is glamorous, visiting shut-ins, visiting the sick. But not everybody knows you're doing that. But God sees it, and he's really grateful. And the person you are visiting and caring for, they see it, and it is making a difference. And when you do those things, you look a lot like Jesus to me. I love whenever I go and visit someone in the hospital or visit someone who's kind of shut in, and then they just kind of off the cuff mention, oh yeah, so-and-so came here the other day. Oh yeah, this person brought me food. And I just think like, really? I didn't know they were doing that stuff. And it's so encouraging to me to hear that we got people here doing good ministry and no one knows it. Not everyone knows all the awesome things you are doing. That's just so encouraging to me. I love hearing stuff like that. And it really kind of helps me remember that tons of you in this congregation are serving and loving in powerful ways, and we don't all know about it. We don't know all the good things you're doing, but thank you for doing those things. I know we are reaping the benefits and just haven't seen, but thank you for doing those things. And I don't want to imply that we serve the church or we give or we do good at home or at work to get praise or acknowledgement. Okay, that's not why we do it. If that's why you're doing it, if you're doing it so people will be like, oh, they're such a great person, or oh, thank you so much, or hey, you're so wonderful. If we do it where it's transactional, if we're doing good things to get something out of it, then maybe, well, and I guess our work is a little transactional, okay? We're doing that to get paid. But there's a lot of good things we do. That is not to be seen. We don't serve our family or church so that people pat us on the back or thank us or give us praise. That's not our motivation. And it would be really obnoxious, right, to be like, hey, listen to this wonderful thing I did. Tell me thank you. Tell me how great of a Christian I am. That would be obnoxious. We don't do that. But I will say, although we don't do this for praise of people, sometimes getting noticed really does help, right? Sometimes getting a little bit of encouragement and a little bit of acknowledgement does reinforce what we are doing. It kind of fills up the tank a little bit to know, okay, people are really seeing and appreciating this. People, I am serving well. I am on the right track. I am doing the right thing. And people are seeing it and encouraging me. And so having that encouragement, it reminds us that what we do matters and that we are doing a good job. Because sometimes when we don't feel appreciated, we start asking, is this even worth it? We might consider quitting, right? Like some of these Jewish Christians are doing that Hebrews was written to. They're probably considering quitting, and he's saying, no, what you're doing is important, it matters, and it is worth it. So in verse 11, he says, keep on loving. Please don't quit the good things you're doing. God sees them. Verse 12, he says, don't become dull or indifferent. You're blessing a lot of people, don't quit, because a lot of times if we feel unappreciated and unseen, we start thinking, well, maybe I'll just quit. Maybe I'll just not do this. But no, God sees, and what you are doing has an impact. When I look at the scripture, when I think about times I've been hurt or frustrated because it felt like no one understands about the good I'm doing. No one sees this hard work. No one's appreciating me. I felt that. I can't help but think, if that's something I need, if I need encouragement, if I need to feel appreciated, then that's something other people need. So I want to be a person that speaks that appreciation to others. I want to make people feel seen. I want to acknowledge the good that, if I want the good I'm doing to be acknowledged, sometimes I need to be a person who acknowledges the good in others. It made me think of this verse, 1 Thessalonians 5:11. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you're doing. Paul here was saying, hey, you're doing a good job, but hey, keep it up. We need this. Our churches should be a place of encouragement. So if I need that acknowledgement, I know others need it as well, and I don't want to miss it. I want to be that person, and I want our church to be people who when we see the good people are doing and we name it and we affirm it, because that fills up the tank a little bit more to keep those people going, to know what you're doing matters. Name it and name it specifically, not just, hey, I appreciate all the good things you're doing. You're doing a lot of good things. But be more specific. Hey, I know you show up Sunday morning on time, every time to come and teach these kids. Hey, I know some people here have hurt your feelings. I know you've had some disagreements with some people in here, but you still show up and bless us all. Thank you. Thank you for always being hospitable and making visitors feel welcome, even when it might be intimidating or you may not be in the mood. So be on the lookout for good things that your congregation is doing and speak it. Name it. Name it specifically. Say, hey, I saw you doing this, because some people are doing some great things and they might need that reminder that what they are doing really matters. And second, and I also think it's important to do that at home and at work too, to be that person. Not just in church and in ministry to name the good things you see, but be that person at home and at work to thank people and make them feel seen, make them feel known. I think another important thing to point out here is, as Christians, we have Christ living in us. And so because of that, we want to see people the way God sees them. And so here it's saying, hey, when God is making notes, God is remembering the good good things people are doing. So I want to do that. I want to see people and note in my heart, man, that's a good thing they're doing. I want to find the good in people. And if you really want to think about how God sees this, 2 Corinthians 5:19, it would also mean not counting their sins against them. So that's a whole nother sermon, but thinking about viewing people the way God does, it means finding the good and not holding the sins against them. But my heart about this question of recognition for service in ministry over years has really been changed. A younger me, a younger minister, I used to get pretty hurt and pretty frustrated when I kind of felt underappreciated. I felt like people don't know what I'm doing. People don't see what I was doing. It was frustrating. And even every now and then, it might even still bother me a little bit if I'm feeling criticized or attacked, which is super rare, so I don't feel that very often. But generally, I really will say and one of the reasons I preach this sermon is that there has been a noticeable and healthy change in my life as I've got older, where I really can focus more when I do something that I believe is good, when I sacrifice in a way that I feel like is meaningful, that I really can do it for God. And I know that, like, God sees it, and I know that what I do matters, and I'm really not worried about people's knowledge of it or their opinion of it. And I'm really not even worried about people's opinions about me, knowing that, hey, there's just some things that people don't know. There's some things that people just don't see, and you know what? That's okay. God sees it, and I can live with that. I can live for God's approval, or live from God's approval and not for theirs, and that really has kind of taken a burden off. I feel like I can do ministry better that way, and that is something I want for all of you. That's something I want for my kids, is that, hey, when we do good things, it's not about making sure other people see it or feeling that need. We do it for God, and that has really been freeing and helpful for me as a minister. So that's the message. But today, we really want to honor educators. And on that topic, I really do want to give a special nod to our teachers and to our educators. We know you're overworked and you're underpaid, but you are the backbone of society, especially the public school ones. You know, if you decided, I'm not appreciated anymore and we're all going to quit, we would be, some kids would be very excited for a while. But the long-term implications of that would be really bad. It would feel like the world is ending. I know often teachers, it can feel thankless. There are kids, and I student taught, and I remember there are some kids who just do not want to be there. And that can make it difficult. That can make class difficult. And I know there are parents who are also kind of like those birds we were talking about, who you only hear from them when they're coming at you with some complaints, right? I know that happens. And I know as teachers, you don't even get to go to the bathroom when you want to. That's hard. But for some of you teachers, you are the escape from an unstable home environment. You are the safe place and the loving adult that a student can talk to. And sometimes, even though you don't get that explicit thank you so much for it, and I think sometimes you do, right? Isn't that great? Isn't it great as a teacher when you do have those moments of a kid showing appreciation? Sometimes they're not as good at it, but I know teachers get it. I sub for a lot of teachers, and I get to go sit in their desk and look at all their stuff and see what's important to them. And they always got the cards from the students, the goofy little letters the kids write, the inside jokes. The teachers post that stuff because it's an important reminder of what I'm doing is making a difference. What I'm doing, these kids are really valuing. So you are making a difference. And sometimes you got to find the ways that maybe they're not explicitly, and I think this is a good thing across the board. Sometimes people aren't good at showing their appreciation, so you just got to see that they're appreciating it. And that needs to just be enough sometimes. Sometimes people don't show you appreciation the way you would like it, but it's there and you just kind of need to see it. But teachers, what a privilege that God can use you to bless so many kids in this community. And again, we at Westgate are just so proud of all of you. Thank you for being on the front line to invest in kids. A lot of them are part of God's kingdom. A lot of the kids at Abilene High are part of God's kingdom. You know, I love that all my kids' friends, they all go to different churches here in town. It's so cool. But there are unchurched kids here also who are not yet part of the kingdom, and you're blessing them and investing in them as well. It's awesome. I was a youth minister for a long time, and I remember sometimes I would hear the kids in my youth ministry talk about different teachers in school and how they made a class subject that wasn't very interesting to them, interesting and exciting. That's awesome. I love that we have teachers doing that. And I love how they can make learning more enjoyable. Sometimes when I would hear students talk about certain teachers, I would almost feel a little bit of jealousy because they get to be youth ministers to those kids 5 days a week. They get to see them every day. And so I felt this sense of jealousy, and then also I thought about it more and also felt a sense of gratitude. Thank you, teachers, for what you're doing there. When I sent my kids to school last week, they had some feelings of dread. My daughter was a bit dramatic. She says, I forgot what joy feels like. It's not that bad. But I know when I send them there, I also know there's going to be some great teachers at Abilene High and elsewhere that are going to love and invest in my kids well. That there's going to be some people there who are going to have a positive impact on how my kids and how others view adults, on how they view the generation above them, and that it's going to shape their hearts and career paths in a positive way. That there are teachers that will speak to them, teach them, and show them things that I can't. I think that's something really important that we forget about school. I think a lot of times we want to be their teachers, but I'm actually really grateful that there's other really cool, really intelligent, really educated people who are investing in my kids and teaching them things that I can't, and investing in them in ways that I can't. And I'm glad my kids get to be a part of that. We are proud of how many teachers we have here at Westgate, proud of what you are doing for our kids, for the kingdom and our community. And we just want our educators to know that we see you and God sees you. And what you are doing really matters. So in a moment, we are going to pray for you. We're going to invite you up and pray over you. Eric's going to do announcements here in a minute, and then he will invite you up to be prayed over. But as is the tradition, we want to offer an invitation to come to the God who knows and sees all things, who sees your good deeds, but also he is aware of your sin and your brokenness. But he's offered his son to wipe away all those sins and remember them no more. So if you want to give your life to Christ in baptism, if you need prayers or encouragement from the congregation, we invite you to come now as together we stand and sing.